Okay, what's going on, everybody? This is King Ricky Rose of the Kings of the Rings podcast, and of course, your general manager of Wrestle Addict Radio. And welcome back to another episode of Watch the Throne exclusive for our Patreon members, where I take something from wrestling and I pretty much give you my 2 cents about it. Now, it's been a little bit delayed. Obviously, we've had some issues going on in the world, global pandemic, people dying, coronavirus, some stuff. But that hasn't stopped wrestling from moving forward, and it hasn't stopped life from moving forward. And speaking of life, we have Becky Lynch about to bring a new life into the world. Now, this is a very monumental moment in wrestling because I don't recall, and this is going to sound really funny, I don't recall really a live actual pregnancy being announced by a wrestler. Now, we've had people claim they were pregnant. We had obviously the Mae Young situation. It was Mae Young situation, and she gave birth to a hand, and we've had Snitsky punting a baby before. But the pregnancy angle has been used tons of time, and I even think Stephanie McMahon used it once in the whole McMahon Helmsley feud and regime, and her on again off again schemes with Triple H at the time. But never have we actually, especially in WWE, I don't think we've actually had someone announce that they are pregnant, and it's very interesting. Obviously, Becky is at the zenith and the height of her popularity, something that she worked her ass off for, and now she kind of has to give it all up. But that's not really what I want to talk about. Obviously, congratulations, Becky. What I want to talk about is that it's information obviously leaked to the interwebs and the rumors stuff, and all the dirt sheets and everything like that. And that kind of ticked me off. Obviously, a pregnancy announcement is something that's very special. It's very sacred. It's something that you want to be able to announce yourself to the world. And I feel like we took that away from Becky Lynch, as people kind of already knew. Great, sure, whatever, speculation notwithstanding. This is Becky's moment. It's not our moment. Becky's just letting us in to this moment, into this monumental announcement, which brings me to an even bigger point. The internet wrestling community and dirt sheets in and of itself ruin moments in wrestling. You ever wonder why we always get these reports that, Vince McMahon or someone else or some of the powers that be in wrestling at the last minute switch up scenarios or switch up outcomes and endings, because we got to keep the fans and the viewers and the smarks and the marks on their toes. I'm trying not to make this one of my infamous Mark Slayer moments on the podcast, which it might end up being on the podcast. I'm going to try to keep it a little bit more logical here. Here's what I'm saying. Wrestling, a huge part of wrestling is the element of surprise. Okay, you don't want to see things coming. It's that natural reaction, and those surprise moments give you and help you to have that suspension of disbelief, to make it feel like what you're seeing is something that is a little bit more real and authentic. We all know wrestling is a stage performance, just like a television show, just like any movie that you've seen, but you never see really people at this with this level of scrutiny on other television shows, trying to figure out, oh, what's the script say? What's the ending going to be? You never see that. Even Avengers, and all of the Marvel movies, with how popular they are, and people really do try to kind of spoil it or try to speculate. You never see people legit flat out have news sources and media articles and websites dedicated to leaking the outcome of a staged event. And many events that we look at are staged. Like I said, any television show, any play, um, any movie, anything on Netflix is pretty much staged to an extent, especially with Tiger King. But but with wrestling, for some reason, it's different. With wrestling, why are the rules different? Is it because we felt like we've been had this whole time? I get it when you're younger. When I was younger, I thought it was like a little bit of a form of legitimacy to wrestling, and there is legitimacy to wrestling and sports entertainment. However, the biggest thing about wrestling, the greatest thing that we remember about wrestling is the elements of surprise, the things that we didn't see coming. And that's what makes us happy. That's what gives us the nostalgia moments in wrestling. And those are the things that we remember forever and ever, and the things we tell our children and other wrestling fans of why we think wrestling's great. But somewhere down the road, we got older, and the collective world anxiety of wrestling fans took over, and we said, we have to know. We have to figure it out. What's going to happen? Should I tune in or tune out? And at that point, you have become a very WCW-like version of yourselves. WCW did this tons of times, where they would leak the results of, WWF at the time, or now WWE. And at one point, it backfired on them. But my whole thing is, why? Why ruin it for yourself? Why ruin something that you actually love for yourself? You watch wrestling, you tune into wrestling to be entertained, to laugh, to cry, to see good wrestling if you're a sports person, and also to be surprised and excited and elated. And the amount and the level of surprise, I guess, and the level of expectation kind of diminishes that. And let me see if I can kind of fix that up, because that sounded really wonky in a moment. Okay, so let's talk about expectations. You always have expectations for everything. So if you have an expectation for something and that thing exceeds your expectations, whatever that may be, you're going to probably enjoy and have a good time. But if it's below what your expectations are, then you're not going to enjoy it at much. And it becomes a little bit of a game of judgmental stuff and opinion based, because that's what experiences are opinion based, and they're based on however you view it. It's very subjective. However, in wrestling, you really have to come in with no kind of prior knowledge of what's going to go on. You have to come in with kind of an open mind. But if your open mind per se is kind of skewed by the fact that you have an idea of what's going to happen next, you're not really going to enjoy this as much as you would, especially for people in the crowd. Like, I would never go to a wrestling event and have a preconceived notion, have inward knowledge of what's going on. That's kind of just like insider trading. You kind of have an advantage here, but also you're ruining the element of surprise. These are shows, these performers, they're entertainers, they're athletes, they're storytellers, they're all those things and much more, all in one person. Allow them to do their job and allow yourself to suspend disbelief and allow yourself to be surprised. Give them a chance. Do not play with a loaded hand because you already know what's coming. You're cheating yourself out of your own happiness and entertainment. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it this week for Watch the Throne. I am King Rickie Rose, and I will see you next time.
Behold the King of Kings. On your knees, dog.